Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. Six eyes locked onto the girl holding nothing but a rock. The thing behind them was the size of a cargo hauler, closing the distance faster than anything that size had any right to move, and every cadet on the ground had a plasma pistol within reach. Bridget Arley had a stone the size of her fist and an expression like she was about to win a carnival game. That image would outlast everything else from that week. But to understand how we got there, you have to go back 4 days, to a briefing room where 47 of us learned exactly how our final exam intended to kill us. Commander Thexil didn't soften it. Carrick 7, a certified Class 3 Deathworld, one of only 7 the Coalition maintains, 6 of them prison colonies where the atmosphere does the guarding. 7 days on the surface. No support beyond an emergency beacon. The room went quiet enough that I heard my own second heart skip. Down the row, a Plarian cadet's scales cycled straight to funeral blue. Then somebody laughed. Not a nervous bark, an actual delighted laugh, like she'd been handed a gift. Every head turned toward the human section, toward Bridget, grinning like this was good news. The commander asked if something amused her. "No, sir, just excited," she said, and somehow that landed worse than if she'd screamed. I caught her arm on the way out. "You understand what a death world is, right?" She just shrugged. "Guess I'll find out." I should have written that sentence down and framed it, because nothing that followed made it look reasonable. The drop shuttle screamed through an atmosphere the color of a bruise, lightning forking in shades I didn't have names for, and Bridget hummed to herself the whole descent like we were on a ferry. When the ramp dropped, the smell hit first, rot and sulfur, and something sweetly wrong underneath it. A Krylet cadet built like a boulder took one breath and threw up on his own boots. Bridget stepped past him, inhaled deep, and stretched like she'd woken from a nap. She unzipped her survival suit to the waist within the hour. Regulation gear, filtration, thermal plating, the works, and she wore it like an unwanted jacket. When I asked what she thought she was doing, she said the air was fine, a little sulfur, nothing a decent respiratory system couldn't shrug off. The commander who'd escorted us down opened his mouth to cite regulation, then just closed it, boarded the shuttle, and left us 40 kilometers from extraction with a warning not to generate paperwork by dying. We'd been on the ground 43 minutes when the underbrush exploded. This was the moment you already saw. The Zentry cadets screaming under it, 4 arms flailing in the mud. Half the camp drawing weapons, a third hitting their beacons on reflex. Bridget stepping in with nothing but a stone, that impossible throw, the shriek like a ruptured steam line as the creature veered off and took a tree down with it. Silence afterward, the Zentry cadet shaking in the mud. "You killed it." "Nah," Bridget said, dusting off her palms. "Just gave it something to think about." That night the rain came back, glowing faintly, and something large paced the treeline just past our lights, close enough that we could hear it breathing. Bridget sat outside eating a ration bar, watching a sunset that was actively irradiating her, and told me this reminded her of a school trip gone sideways. A coastal town, a storm warning, days without power, something about a still built from spare parts and a run-in with local police that she filed under good memories. I asked how her own planet was rated in the hazard system. She genuinely didn't know. Nobody had ever told her. That should have been my warning. Over the next 2 days, she rebuilt our entire survival plan from nothing. A water filter made of sand, gravel, and charcoal that turned poison orange runoff drinkable. A shelter woven from resin-weeping branches that smelled bad enough to double as predator repellent. 6 local fruits she cleared for human consumption by the simple, horrifying method of tasting them herself and waiting to see if she dropped. Half the camp thought she'd lost her mind. The other half started following her instructions because dehydration was winning the argument, and every single thing she tried kept working. By the 4th morning, 44 of us were still upright, gathered around a fire eating something she'd assured us was probably fine, when Cadet Lecther pulled up Earth's file on her datapad and went very still. "Class 12, she said. "Earth is rated a Class 12 death world." Nobody moved. Someone's ration container hit the ground. That seems dramatic, Bridget said, and I watched her actually reckon with the number for the first time in her life. I mean, we get storms, sure, quakes. The wildlife's a lot sometimes. You just learn to pay attention. Lecter read on in a flat, stunned voice, 57 catalogued threat categories, a crust unstable across most of the surface, a dominant species that had, in the file's own phrasing, clawed its way to the top by fighting everything else on the planet at once. Bridget actually laughed at that part. Okay, that's a little accurate. Everything back home was trying to kill us first, to be fair. I sat with that for a long moment, and the whole week rearranged itself in my head. Class 3 had put 3 of our cadets on their knees inside a day. Bridget's home planet sat 4 grades past that, and she had spent 4 full years at the academy without once mentioning it. Not modesty, not caution, just genuine surprise that anyone would need telling. To her, constant mortal peril wasn't a threat category. It was Tuesday. So this, I said, gesturing at the toxic jungle, the acid rain, the shape moving somewhere past our filing, is easier than home. She actually thought about it. Gravity's lighter here, oxygen's a bit thin, but yeah, pretty manageable. The extraction shuttle came down through the storm on the 7th day and found 44 of us alive, fed, and gathered around a fire that shouldn't have kept anything alive but us. Commander Thexil came down the ramp and stopped cold at the head count, running the number twice like it might change. The typical survival rate for the exercise, he said, hovered near 30%. We'd come in at 93. Every cadet, still on their feet, pointed at Bridget before he'd even finished the sentence. He looked at her for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted from disbelief into something closer to recognition. Species that come off a Class 12 world make exceptional soldiers, he said, quiet, almost to himself. You're all pre-trained for the worst case before you ever set foot here. He admitted, without much shame, that the Coalition had known exactly what it was recruiting when it opened Earth's file, and had simply judged the truth easier left unspoken. On the climb to orbit, Bridget went out almost instantly, worn through but easy in a way none of the rest of us managed. Somewhere in her sleep, her hand found a bolt that had shaken loose from a panel seam, and her fingers closed around it without her ever waking. The same grip, the same readiness, aimed at nothing at all. I watched that hand hold a piece of scrap the whole way up, and understood, finally, that for her, the fight with the world never really stopped. It had only gotten quiet enough to sleep through.